Week 4 of the NFL season is upon us. Welcome everyone to Utility Sports Plus. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content as we break down our pick'em and predictions for Week 4. Austin, let's not waste any time and jump on into it here with our records. Last week, look, I was really rough a week ago. Huge week for me in Week 3, moved up to 28-20. This is the best I felt about myself since I don't even remember when. This is probably the best you're going to get out of me. 8 games above 500. I'm like shaky at best. Way better than my favorite team, the New York Jets, who are just flat out bad. But Austin, no surprise here. Well above 500. 18 games above 500. In fact, this early in the season. Austin, you're sitting on the throne once again, heading into Week 4. How does it feel?
To me, this isn't really this is not an accomplishment. If I would have hoped to have had less than 10 losses on the year, so not a good start for me.
Yeah, nothing really shocking here about Austin being unmoved by completely crushing my throat once again here heading into Week 4 with that 5-game advantage he's got. Let's jump forward now, Austin, into our Thursday night football matchup, and we got some interdivisional rivalry here going on between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Now listen, Lambeau Field, divisional game Thursday night. Seems like all the conditions seem to be leading up to a Packers win, especially after a game-winning field goal this past week. But Austin, you and I both actually go against the Packers in this one. And it just kind of feels like it's the Motor City Kitties year there in Detroit. Why are you picking the Lions in this game?
To me, I'm taking the Lions because I think that the play-action pass game is going to play a huge part in it. They should be able to, potentially run the football effectively. And when I look at this Lions team, there's a lot of playmakers across the board. Green Bay struggled on offense for the first 3 quarters of last week's game and was kind of unmoving in terms of how excited I was for this offense moving forward. But at the end of the day here, I understand this is a divisional matchup. I think it's very possible that Green Bay does come out with the victory considering they are at home in a divisional game, but Detroit should be able to pick up some steam here. Kind of what we're waiting for is that true big burst. They had the exciting win against Kansas City, but the hype's actually kind of quieted down on the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I want to praise a couple of the young guys here in this matchup. First of all, Jahmyr Gibbs eclipsed 80 rushing yards this most recent week. Wasn't as involved in the pass games. I think a lot of people expect him to be week in, week out, but still a really nice rushing week for him nonetheless. And then from the Packers' perspective, their first-year starting quarterback, obviously not a rookie, but Jordan Love made a fantastic throw on 3rd down, moving the chains with what looked like an Aaron Rodgers-esque throw. So a lot of credit to some of those young guys. Exciting matchup here for Thursday Night Football. Anytime you get divisional matchups like this, it's always good NFL football, good television to watch. So I'm excited for this one. Let's jump into our Sunday slate. And we've got an early one this week, Austin. We've got a London game in here. And we've got the Atlanta Falcons heading into London to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sorry about that. They're just so used to playing there, though. Feels like a huge home field advantage. I swear they have to be sold out of Calvin Ridley jerseys already in London. I know I would have bought mine if I was from London. So Jaguars just feel like the easy pick. They're at home essentially in this game in London. And to be honest, yes, I know back-to-back losses. People are going to be loud in my mentions. The Jaguars are still rolling. They're running the AFC South. I don't care what the Colts record is right now. Jaguars going all the way, Austin. You're saying it yourself here. Another Jaguars pick from Austin, guys. Take note of that. Austin, what's your thoughts on this matchup?
Oh, it's interesting. The amount of confidence that you have in a one-win team is incredible because this team is not as good as people have been saying that they are. It's just not the case. People have to really pump the brakes on this because they got absolutely piss-pounded by the Houston Texans. That is a fact. And I think that it's actually rather concerning their inability to, stop CJ Stroud through the air, Tank Dell. They could not contain that. Imagine the rest of the season. That has been my gripe with this team. Defensively, they have their issues. Offensively, they have their issues, more specifically on the interior. There are some big question marks for this team moving forward. They got to run the football more effectively, in my opinion. And I don't see that being the case. I don't think this is an easy game to pick. It's contrary to what you were just saying. That is not true. That is not true because Atlanta easily could go and beat Jacksonville and London, and none of us would be shocked. Not a single viewer on here would be like, oh my God, look at that. No, that is just not the case here. Atlanta, very well. I should have just taken the Falcons in this game, just to spite you here and to go opposite of your pick.
Well, you guys do know that if Austin goes opposite, you know who to bet with, obviously, looking at the records. But one thing I do have to say, I was contemplating saying this. I haven't been this confident in the Jaguars since after CJ Henderson's rookie debut when they beat the Colts. Yes, that was their only win of the season, but I was super confident in that football team, and I'm riding with the Jaguars all year long. So far, I picked them 4 times. By the end of the year, I promise you all have picked them 17 times. Let's go ahead and jump forward into our next one, where we look at a noontime slot game for Central Time, and we're looking at an East Coast matchup here. So, of course, that 1 o'clock kickoff time, Miami Dolphins, who hung 70 points on the Denver Broncos head this most recent week. Never expected to see a game like that in the NFL in my lifetime. Just absolutely insane what the Dolphins have been doing, not only in this most recent week, but this season. And they head into Buffalo, where, again, this is an interdivision matchup, Austin. You and I just kind of landed on some of the same answers this week of picking some of these away divisional matchups. We did it with the Lions. We're doing it now with the Dolphins. This might be a little bit of recency bias on my end, but Austin, for a pick'em wizard like you, what led you to the Miami Dolphins?
It was tough because I really wanted to actually stick with Buffalo here at home, but considering the performance that Miami just had, there was a lot to take away from that. Speed kills. That is the first and foremost thing that we have to bring up here, because I don't think Denver's defense is anything to truly sneeze at. And that is the fact, going all the way back to last year, really good on the perimeter, but they just got cooked in everything. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop it through the air. 726 total yards given up by the Denver Broncos to the Miami Dolphins. This is a team of mass destruction. And when you look in totality of the talent they have, it's crazy. The running game has absolutely been unleashed. Obviously, throwing the football has been huge for them. A lot of playmakers on the perimeter, but Buffalo's got a lot on their hands here. They absolutely do defensively, but let's not forget they had a very, very dominant win last week as well. So 2 teams coming off very sound wins. I think you have to consider this a tight game, and going into Buffalo and winning is no easy task.
Yeah, Austin, you nailed it when you said speed kills. This year, the 5 fastest ball carriers throughout the entire NFL have all been Miami Dolphins, according to Next Gen Stats, which is crazy. This team is just built upon speed, upon speed, upon speed. But listen, this is going to be a good matchup. The Bills are obviously such a great team, looked at by most as a real contender in the NFL and, of course, in the AFC. And I think that this is going to be probably the matchup of the week. Of course, not a real primetime game, unfortunately, but still a really fun matchup to watch, and one that I think, we're going to be spoiled with this week as NFL fans. Let's jump forward into our next game. We look at a matchup here between the Minnesota Vikings and Carolina Panthers. And yes, I'm a little bummed here to be talking about this game after such a fun matchup like the Bills and Dolphins. Listen, the Vikings are super disappointing. The Panthers are about what I expected them to be this year, which is like kind of this fun team. Yes, they got Bryce Young. Look, they do some nice things, but here's the thing. This game is not fun to pick at all. First of all, the Panthers, I land on this pick here. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't love this selection. I just also don't love the Minnesota Vikings in the way that they're playing football right now. The Panthers, one issue that they have is they're not protecting Bryce Young very well, and predominantly not using any chip blocks with him. They're not using tight ends to stay in and help block. The running backs are typically going out on routes from all the data I've looked at and seen. So for me, that's some cause of concern. If the Vikings can get after Bryce Young and make life difficult on him, they have a huge advantage. The issue is I don't trust the Vikings to do that, really. That defense, yes, they're going to blitz a ton. They're going to do a lot of different things. But maybe that opens the game up for Bryce Young, which is what I'm looking at here for the Panthers, and why I think Adam Thielen gets a revenge win against his hometown Vikings here.
Yeah, I'm going to use a counterpoint to some of the next-gen stats that you brought up here in terms of, having their running backs go out and not chipping at all. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough all day, for the Carolina Panthers to go up against Danielle Hunter, who's been extremely hot this year. Obviously, in a contract season, he's going to give it his all, and he's going to be in that conversation for sack leader by the end of the year. He should be, potentially in that 15 sack realm. That's currently what he is on pace for. So looking at that tells me that the Minnesota Vikings should have a big week here. They've been competitive in their games. They just haven't been able to get the job done to close out a football game. Hopefully against Carolina, that is not the case here. Hopefully they're able to kind of figure things out down the stretch of the games, what they have to do. First and foremost, they had to run the football more effectively, which was the case against the Chargers, who have one of the worst run defenses in the entire league. So Once again, Vikings have to run the football a little bit more effectively. We might see a mix of Cam Akers this week with Alexander Madison, Ty Chandler starting to work in a little bit more. But to me, Minnesota on the road, I still favor them despite 3 very disappointing losses to start the season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Cam Akers' usage. Austin, you brought him up. We'll have to see if he gets significant carry attempts this week or not, but that'll be something to look forward to not only this week, but in the coming weeks as well for Minnesota. Let's jump into our next one now. We look at a matchup here between the Denver Broncos and the Chicago Bears. Austin, this is a matchup between 2 0-3 teams, and they almost both feel like they're at the lowest of lows right now. The Broncos got 70 points hung up on them this week, and the Bears, well, they're the Chicago Bears. They just have not been good during the Justin Fields era up to this point. Again, I'm not assigning all the blame to him. He's had some of his moments that are not pretty either, but this team's just not very good. It almost looks deflated, the amount of effort that they're putting in. I saw a lot of Bears fans on Twitter this week were pretty disappointed with how their team performed and how they kind of went out and their effort level essentially in week 3. So week 4 is going to be a big bounce back for them. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of thoughts in that locker room that, hey, maybe this is our opportunity to get into the win column against another 0-3 team. They have to go out and take care of business. They're at home. It's not a real huge benefit for them, but look, this isn't the Kansas City Chiefs they're going up against. They did not look good against Kansas City. Most teams typically don't. I think that the Bears can play better this week against Denver. Austin, what do you believe in here from Sean Payton and the Broncos?
He's going to have to cook up a masterful game plan because they have the talent on this offense to, put up a serviceable amount of points per game. The Chicago offense, I don't have as much confidence in. I understand Denver got absolutely hung up against, the Miami Dolphins, but Chicago does not have that level of playmakers and speed at the running back position or at the wide receiver position. So DJ Moore is obviously the biggest threat, but if you're able to neutralize him, that really makes things a lot easier for your game plan defensively. They're going to throw a lot of different blitzes at Justin Fields. They're going to make him make quick decisions, which he has struggled mightily all season long. So unless Justin Fields in this offense is able to make quick adjustments, I don't think that, they serve very well in this game, despite them being at home, 2 0-3 teams. History would tell you to just take the home team in this one when it comes to pick 'em. But to me, just looking at the circumstances and where these teams actually truly sit, I still like Denver.
I'm about to say something that is the most confident I am in this entire video. The Chicago Bears will not score 70 points this week. So Broncos fans, rest up. The defense is going to look way better this time around, at least. Let's jump forward into our next one. Now we look at a matchup here between the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns. Austin, I know you were going back and forth on this one a ton. 2 AFC North rivals here. Really good matchup. Deshaun Watson coming off of one of his better games of the year in terms of the stats he put up. Now he did have one really, really ugly decision that week where just really don't know what he was trying to do there. But the Browns, they've been playing okay this year. This is one of those where it's hard to pick, because as soon as you bet against Baltimore, it just feels like that's a game Baltimore is going to win. So what's your thoughts here on this one, and how much did you really struggle going between these two?
Yeah, this one was awful for me to try to pick because I look at it from the standpoint of I trust Baltimore's offense a lot more than I do Cleveland's. There's no consistency in the run game with Cleveland. They're going to have to change up some things next week because they did not run the football well at all last week. But I think when you look at the defense of the Browns, this is one of the best starts we've seen from a Browns defense in their entire franchise history. I think in terms of the actual yards per game that they've allowed, as well as the points per game they've allowed in the first 3 games, this is a very stout defense. A lot due to Jim Schwartz and his scheme that he's brought to the table. This has been a big acquisition for them, and I think he has completely transformed how this Cleveland Browns identity is, especially on that side of the football. Offensively, they're gonna have to run the football. That's all it comes down to. But once again, Baltimore, if you start betting on them at this point in the season when it seems a little bit more bleak, that's generally when they turn it around and make you look dumb and pick them.
Right. Myles Garrett coming off a 3.5 sack performance against Tennessee, and then also Lamar Jackson. Of course, they did lose to Indianapolis, but he did rush for over 100 yards and a couple touchdowns in that one. So that's going to be some of those big X-factor players to watch. Of course, no surprise there with the 2 guys on how talented they are, but that's really kind of what this game boils down to in a nutshell. Let's jump forward into our next one. We look at a matchup here between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans. I landed on the Texans here, and one big reason why is their offensive play calling and kind of what they're doing to help CJ Stroud, who has looked really good so far early in his career with over 900 passing yards and really limiting turnovers. Part of what they're doing is using 6 or 7 man protection schemes where they're keeping guys in to block, unlike what Carolina is doing, which I think is a big reason why we've seen Young struggle a little bit more and Stroud kind of thrive a bit more. And I think going into a game against Pittsburgh, if you're trying to limit, maybe a guy like TJ Watt, for example, you're going to want to have guys chipping and staying into block and helping those assignments anyway. So kind of what Houston's already doing is going to play into this game. Austin, why'd you go against the Steelers here, or go with the Steelers here, excuse me?
A game early in the season against a young quarterback by a Mike Tomlin-led team is exactly why I went with them. Once again, history tells us Mike Tomlin gets the better of some of these younger quarterbacks, especially earlier on in the season. To me, this is one of those games that he is going to craft a great game plan. Defensively, this team should be okay. They confused Jimmy Garoppolo a couple of times this past week, and it really ultimately caused some confusion. I think that probably is going to be the case for CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud has done a nice job dissecting a defense and really going through his progressions, which is something that's pretty exciting to watch as a prospect. Now, looking at him, he is transformed, and he has really quieted a lot of the haters talking about the Ohio State QBs never working in the NFL. Maybe he can turn the page. Maybe he can turn the tide on that entire narrative.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks, he's had some nice performances. Tank Dell specifically has been his favorite target, Austin, in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to give you an over-under here in a full-point PPR league, over-under 17.5 points for Tank Dell in this matchup.
I'm going to actually go on the over here because they're going to have to throw the football quite a bit in this one. They're going to rely on their top playmaker. And I think he's going to exceed that. He's going to score at least 1 touchdown. I think you could see him have as many as 8 or 9 catches.
Very interesting. It'll be a fun matchup to watch this week between the Steelers and Texans, who, both have interesting things going on within their organizations right now. And Houston fans, I know how hyped you guys are about CJ Stroud. So let's keep that hype going. Let's get some H-Town comments down below. Also, don't forget to join the Discord. Links in the description for that. Jump forward now into our next game. We look at one here between the LA Rams and the Indianapolis Colts. And now, Austin, I was joking with you before the stream about how much the Colts are going to get for Gardner Minshew in a trade this year, because boy, did he step up big time in the absence of Anthony Richardson. Now, I know sometimes stats don't tell the whole story, and look, maybe he wasn't perfect in that game, but given the circumstances, stepping in as a backup, he played, I would say, adequately, and I think he's a really nice tool for the Colts. We bet against them last week. It looks like we're doing that again this week, though, going with the Rams here in Indianapolis. I'm sure Colts fans are just saying, hey, keep betting against us. We'll keep winning. Austin, what do you like about the Rams here? And should we kind of look at the Colts as maybe underdogs in that AFC South? I'm rolling with the Jaguars, though.
Yeah, I think when you actually look at it, it probably makes a little more sense to take the Colts in this one, considering they're playing at home. Los Angeles has had its struggles, but I think at the end of the day, when you look at the Rams offense, they're going to be able to piece it together. I look at this receiving core as one of the more underrated groups in the entire NFL, because even though not having Cooper Kupp, they have been effective. Tutu Atwell has stepped up in a big way, and I think that has really changed a lot of different things for this offense, considering where they thought they were going to be. If you look at the sheer names on this roster, you'd say there's no chance that they would be outside of the bottom 5 in terms of offensive yards per game, just because it's just not a lot of name brands, not a lot of knowledge about some of these players like Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. I'm pretty impressed though overall.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're doing a nice job moving the football. Of course, that was such a huge flaw of them a week ago. If you go back, or a year ago, excuse me, if you go back to our week 1 pick'em and predictions, we talked at length about the Rams and how this year they were hoping to bounce back to what they were a couple of years ago when they won a Super Bowl offensively. And without Cooper Kupp, they've gotten at least closer back to that mark. And once Kupp is back healthy and in the lineup, you would think that maybe they can even ascend a little bit more as well. But the Colts, I mean, if you're an Indianapolis fan right now, you've got to be feeling pretty good. The Pacers are good. Colts are playing good football. Those are all good positives going in the right direction for Indianapolis fans. Let's jump forward into our next matchup now. We look at a game here between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who came back down to earth a little bit following a 25-11 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. And in case you're keeping track on your bingo card at home, that's actually scoregami, which is a fun little note, 25-11. But the Saints here, Austin, they of course lost in their own dramatic fashion to the Packers. Why are we both going with the Saints here? Of course, playing at the Superdome gives them a pretty good advantage. And the Buccaneers was kind of a little bit of fool's gold from the first couple of weeks of the year.
Yeah, I think so. And I just don't have a ton of confidence in this Buccaneers team. I think there's just so much inconsistency with this offense and what you're going to see with Baker Mayfield on a week in, week out basis. I think when you look at the New Orleans Saints, I like what they have defensively too. This offense with Chris Olave and Michael Thomas are two big time playmakers that are really going to make the difference in this game. Alvin Kamara coming back is another big note from the suspension. He should have a big game. He's well rested, and could see him going for at least 150 yards in terms of total scrimmage yards. So he's going to make an impact. He's going to make some plays and really gives them a chance to win, really regardless of who's at quarterback.
All right, jumping into our next matchup now, we look at a game here between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Another interdivision game here. The Commanders not playing their best football this past week. Obviously, a come back down to earth moment for them against the Buffalo Bills. And the Eagles, well, they just keep on winning. Jalen Hurts is 20-1 in his last 21 regular season starts. He's been playing great football. The running game in Philadelphia looks revitalized. DeAndre Swift's been playing very, very well. Austin, what do you like about the Eagles in this one?
Yeah, I think the Philadelphia Eagles match up very well considering they have a strong offensive line, which plays to the strength of the Washington Commanders. But once again, on the perimeter, the receivers, their ability to run the football, DeAndre Swift looks completely revitalized, as you had previously mentioned. Looks like the guy he was supposed to be in Detroit and then quickly fell off, but now he's found himself a very nice home here working with the Philadelphia Eagles. They run the football effectively. Their play action game is awesome. RPOs, everything. They can throw so much at you offensively. It's tough to stop. And then their defensive line really gets after a quarterback, causes a ton of havoc on the back end, forces turnovers. That's why I think Philadelphia, to me, at home is the easy choice.
Right. I don't even think Philadelphia has played their best brand of football yet. Some of their timing, some of the offensive play calls, especially on the passes, look a little bit rusty and not quite the same as last year. Obviously, when you have coordinator changes, stuff's going to take a little bit of time to mesh out. They're still 3-0 at the end of the day. They still have some of the best talent in the NFL. Austin, you and I have been very, very high on the Eagles the last couple of years, and clearly they're a team to probably strike some fear into their opponents. The Commanders coming off of a tough loss. They're probably destined here for another disappointing game against the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. Let's jump forward into our next game. We look at a matchup here between the Arizona Cardinals, who played upset this past week against the Dallas Cowboys, but this time the Cardinals head into San Francisco to take on the 49ers in an NFC West showdown. 49ers, they've just been the better team, obviously, the last couple of years. They're a really, really, really good football team. Christian McCaffrey is a touchdown machine, just seemingly scores all of the time. That trade for the Niners was an absolute home run. You and I felt that from the very beginning when they made that deal. Austin, the Cardinals, can they play upset 2 weeks in a row, or why do you think the Niners pull this one out ultimately?
I think the San Francisco 49ers are just going to be too much to handle offensively for the Cardinals. When you look at the wide variety of passing attack as well as running the football effectively and playing mistake-free football is the big key for me. Brock Purdy is going to take care of the football. That is the reason why they felt comfortable moving on from Trey Lance, because they know they have so much consistency with Brock Purdy, his ability to take care of the football, move the chains, and this offense is just super awesome and built well for him. So to me, Arizona is going to be forced into multiple mistakes. I think, with the consistency of this defensive line and getting after the quarterback, they stay on you all game. So once again, I don't think that's going to change here in this one. Arizona is going to have their hands full. I don't see this being a particularly close game, but once again, the Cardinals have surprised us already this year, so I wouldn't be shocked if that happened once again.
Austin, you and I have talked at length, both on and off camera, about the importance of coaches in the NFL and just kind of what they do for an organization. Austin, for Kyle Shanahan, where would you generically rank him, and how important is he to San Francisco's success, not only this year, but just in generic terms?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those coaches that you can view as a potential top 5 coach, and I think that is warranted with his consistency, regardless of quarterback, regardless of coordinators that he's had under him, and that's why you see such a big coaching tree from him already at such a young age. It shows the level of maturity for his age as a coach and his ability to groom coordinators and be interchangeable. We've seen multiple coordinators of his get head coaching jobs elsewhere and have good success already. True testament to what he is as a mentor and what he is as a coach and leader for this team.
San Francisco clearly has a good one and a very talented roster to boot. So this matchup for them, feels really easy in my eyes to pick the Niners. Let's jump forward into our next game now, where we look at a matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tennessee Titans. And guys, I've been telling you since the very beginning this year, the Tennessee Titans are just not that good. They're going to struggle this year. The Cincinnati Bengals, look, they've had their struggles. Joe Burrow comes back, though, for Monday Night Football. They get a win, really badly needed win. And look, I know they haven't started the year the way that they wanted to. And you might say, well, look, their record isn't better than the Tennessee Titans. I get it, but they're a way better football team. The Tennessee Titans are just not good. At some point, people are going to be willing to fully admit that. The Titans are not that good of a football team. The Bengals are. I think the Bengals win this one very handedly. I'm going to predict a 17-point win here for Cincinnati, which is a pretty big margin of victory for a team that has not won by more than 3 points this year up to this point. But I believe in the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe in their talent. Hopefully Joe Burrow continues to get more and more healthy, and we really see the Joe Burrow of old come out this next week. Austin, what do you like about Cincy in this one?
Yeah, I kind of look at this as, the Cincinnati Bengals kind of a get-right game. And I think regardless of what you feel about that Rams game in which they had won, I just don't know if they're right back to where they need to be. Joe Burrow is just very, very he's in a position where he's not able to maneuver the pocket, climb the pocket, and be his true self, which makes him so effective and makes his wide receivers so much more effective as he's able to extend some plays. He's not an athletic quarterback, but he's smart about maneuvering the pocket and finding open guys. That is his A game. He's not been on his A game, but at the end of the day, talent tends to supersede a lot of things in this league. Scheme is obviously great, but talent always seems to rise to the top in most situations, which is probably going to be the case here. This offense is way too talented to be where they've been the first couple of weeks of the season. I think that really changes here. Tennessee's a tough matchup, though. Defensively, offensively, Tennessee's got a lot of things to figure out, especially with their passing offense.
You talked about Burrow. Just looking at what he did on Monday night, did not throw a touchdown, but he did rely heavily on his former LSU teammate, Ja'Marr Chase, who ended up having 12 catches for 141 yards. That's a ton of production from Ja'Marr Chase, and obviously a very welcome sign, Austin. Look, Ja'Marr Chase didn't start the year super hot. Obviously, some of the fantasy owners out there are kind of wondering, what do you expect from him going forward? Do you still think he was worth a top 3 or 4 pick in standard full point PPR leagues?
Yeah, I don't know if he's necessarily warranted that at this point in the season, but I think you're going to see him break out in a big way, especially here moving forward. There was a focused game plan from offensive coordinator Callahan wanting to get the football in his hands and making some plays. They moved him into the slot more than they ever have in his entire career. That's why you're able to see him break free on a couple. So working against those slot corners was huge for him. Getting him, some short crossing routes was a pivotal part of the game plan in this past Monday night game.
Yeah, definitely going to be a fun matchup to watch this week. Let's jump into our next game. We look at a matchup here now between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers. And a running joke here on the channel is when I pick the Raiders to win, they lose. When I pick them to lose, they win. So we'll see what Vegas has in store this week. But Austin, the Chargers come off a pretty good win. Justin Herbert played great. Keenan Allen had the game of his life, seemingly threw a touchdown, basically caught every single pass, made Byron Murphy his little baby that week. Austin, the Chargers, are they going to turn this into a little bit of a winning streak moving forward here?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Chargers are a team, once again, talent supersedes a lot of different things, and I think that's going to be the case once again. The Raiders, regardless of Mike Williams being out or not, are going to struggle to contain Justin Herbert through the air. You should see Quentin Johnson have a big impact moving forward. He's a first-round pick for a reason, a solid route runner, a guy that can consistently create separation. Now, you're missing the big jump ball element from a guy like Mike Williams, but at the end of the day, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen are going to be a nice duo moving forward, and getting Austin Eckler back here at some point is going to be super vital for their success moving forward.
Of course, Davante Adams had a big game in week 3, but alas, the Raiders still not playing their best brand of football. You got to wonder what's kind of going on in that organization. You're going to start hearing some rumors churn over the next couple of weeks in terms of trades, maybe the head coach situation as well. We'll have to keep our eyes on that as well. Let's jump forward into our next one. We look at a matchup here now between the Dallas Cowboys, who will be hosting the New England Patriots in this one. And look, the Patriots come off of a 15-10 win over the New York Jets. No surprise there. The Patriots own the New York Jets. I can legally say that as a Jets fan. But the Cowboys come off of a disappointing loss, but looks like we're kind of turning our eyes to those most recent matchups and saying, look, we still trust the talent on the Cowboys? And how do they overcome the absence of Trayvon Diggs in this one, Austin?
Yeah, and I think New England's not going to be a team to necessarily expose the weakness at the corner spot with the absence of Trayvon Diggs. So that's not a team that I'm super concerned of moving forward. But the Dallas Cowboys are going to get back to running the football and, going once again out of play actions. A vital part of their offense is exactly how they've built this team and the structure offensively. I think when you look at New England, it's kind of hit or miss offensively. Ramondre Stevenson's going to have to play a big role in this one. But Micah Parsons is going to be as dominant as ever. He's going to get after Mac Jones. He's going to make it for a very long day for them. So to me, I'm not going to hit the panic button on the Cowboys like a lot of people already are, considering how dominant they were through the first couple weeks of the season here. The little slip up in week 3, but to me, I feel very confident in them moving forward.
Yeah, the status of Mac Jones is going to be something we have to keep our eyes on. Of course, there was that little mix-up with Sauce Gardner against the Jets, and well, let's just say Mac Jones might be under investigation for what I would call some illegal touching. Now, my expectation is he's not going to get suspended or anything like that, but you never know. We'll have to keep our eyes on it. We are recording this Monday night, so if news comes out this week on that, of course, you have to factor that into your thoughts here too. But nonetheless, we like Dallas regardless. Let's jump forward into our next one. We look at a matchup here on Sunday Night Football. Clearly, the odds, the schedule makers, really love that this is now a primetime game with no Aaron Rodgers and the Jets just being flat out bad. But the Jets are hosting the Chiefs here. And I'm sure a lot of Swifties are going to be tuning into this game because if you guys didn't know, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are dating. I'm sure you didn't see it the 500 times during the broadcast or the 3,000 times on social media over the last day and a half. But yes, they are. So Swifties, if you're watching here, Chiefs are going to win. I can say that as a Jets fan. The Jets are not going to win this game. The Jets are not a very good team. Look, they have a lot of really talented players, but when your quarterback is Zach Wilson, who right now I believe is ranked the 34th best quarterback in the NFL in a 32-team league, you're just not going to find success. The team has not enough talent to overcome some of the flaws at the quarterback position. And just quite frankly, if they can't move the football, if they can't go down and score touchdowns or at least move the football consistently to set up the defense with good field positioning regularly, I just don't see a way that they can win, especially against a team as high-powered as the Chiefs. Austin, how big of a blowout does this one turn into?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a blowout. I think the New York Jet defense is going to keep this somewhat competitive, but Zach Wilson's going to have to make some throws. And at the end of the day, with Chris Jones barreling down on you, he's going to be forced into some mistakes, in my opinion. I think this could be a multi-turnover game for Zach Wilson. They're going to have to lean on the running game heavily. Breece Hall is going to have to carry this team if they really want any chance in this football game. But, Garrett Wilson, he's another guy that can be an X factor for this offense. But to me, it's a lot to overcome with KC, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Those two are going to have a heyday, I have a feeling, against the Jets. They're going to connect probably for at least 10 times.
In case you're keeping track at home, and I am, Austin, who came into the year as a self-proclaimed Jets lover and was going to pick them all the time, he has yet to pick them through 4 weeks and pick them. Just keep your eyes on that. We'll see if that changes throughout the year. But Austin, so far, you're winning a lot of games because you're picking against the New York Jets. I like it. Let's jump into our next one now, which is Monday Night Football, our last game of the week. And this is a really exciting one. The Seattle Seahawks come off a 10-point win. The New York Giants, well, can't say the same for them. They lost to the San Francisco 49ers on Thursday Night Football in week 3. But for me, I think that Thursday Night Football, it gives them a huge advantage. Yes, I know they weren't very well rested for Thursday night, but guess what? They get a couple extra days here to rest up and kind of watch the Seahawks, get their film on, and really kind of dive into what that Seahawks team is trying to do. And I think because of that, Brian Daboll can hopefully take advantage of that, and we'll see this Giants team move the football way more than they have this year. There's been a lot of rumors about if Brian Daboll is the play caller now or not for the offense. For me, I think he is doing that. And because of that, I believe that he's going to be able to call up the right plays at the right times and make things happen for the Giants. Austin, how close of a matchup do you think this is? I know there's a lot of Giants hate right now. I'm sure that you're a little bit more kind of closer to the mean than most people, though.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of overreaction that you'll see in the media, but I just think that it's very telling with this offense not being able to move the football with any amount of consistency in their first couple of games. It's kind of scary. Now, that San Francisco game, a lot of people are going to point fingers and talk about how bad the offense is. That's a tough matchup. It absolutely is. But against the Seattle Seahawks, they're playing at home, so that's where it's a little advantageous for the Giants. Maybe it's going to be more so of a get-right game, but the Seattle Seahawks can run the football effectively. Geno Smith should have a pretty good day here against the Giants. But to me, I understand the idea of wanting to pick the home team in a close matchup, but I think people are a little reactionary when it comes to this Giants offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks have been putting up points too, 37 points this past week. You look at what Geno did, almost 300 yards. Kenneth Walker nearly eclipsed 100 yards on the ground. DK Metcalf went for over 100. The Seahawks have playmakers too. There's other guys that I haven't even mentioned that are big-time players as well for Seattle's offense. I do think this can be a little bit of a back-and-forth game, and if the Giants play their best brand, I'd pick them to win. But it wouldn't shock me if Seattle comes out of here victorious on Monday night as well. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. We had a lot of fun recording our week 4 pick. Drop your picks down in the comment section. Austin always loves seeing who you guys have. Then also let us know your thoughts on some of those individual games. Please subscribe to Utility Sports Plus. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, guys. Just get us there. Just hit that subscribe button right now. It's literally free to you, and it would just mean a whole lot to us to have you guys hit that subscribe button. Leave a like, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports Plus video.